Welcome to This Endorian Life, a Star Wars podcast from the Radio Meanwhile Network. My name is Steve Rudd.
I'm Nick Gunning, and we're following the Ewoks from Return of the Jedi to the Ewok TV movies, the 80s cartoon, and beyond.
Today, we are discussing the all-new Ewoks Season 2. I like how you have to put all-new in there.
Yeah, you got to let people know.
Separation.
You got to let them know.
Not only just separation to Season 2, it's all-new
all
Ewoks
new.
Season 2.
Can't stress it
Episode
enough.
2B, Princess Latara, with special guest Eric Mickles, co-host of the shows previously on X-Men and 90s Got Me Like.
You say that every time. It's 90s music got me like.
Oh, 90s music got me like.
There you go.
Yeah, if it was 90s got me like, we could just talk about whatever we wanted for that whole day.
Oh my gosh. You could do a whole episode.
Specifically music.
Tamagotchis, snap bracelets,
Yep.
pogs.
Snap bracelets.
Devil's Advocate starring Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves.
Please don't. You don't have to do that. Eric, you know, this Eric
Consider the source, son!
Now I'll never forget music.
That'll teach you.
Eric, this is
Wonderwall by Al Pacino.
This was your missing piece of like Radio Meanwhile bingo, because you've been on every other show except for this one.
Yeah.
And this is
I've
our
listened to
anniversary.
this one.
This is our anniversary episode. Yeah, 1 year.
Oh, is it really?
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Wow.
It's exciting time.
1 year
made
since the destruction of the Empire's
Yeah.
second weapon.
That's right. Yep.
Congratulations.
That's when it happened.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
But
man.
Eric, before we get into the episode, I have to ask you, what is your familiarity with like Ewok spin-off media? Do you know, like, did you see these? Did you see the movies as a kid? Did you ever see the cartoon? Anything?
First time I ever saw one of these animated things in motion was after we had watched Return of the Jedi at your house, Nick.
Yeah.
And normally that's the time when we were like going to collect our coats and stuff.
Yeah.
But like as quick as you could,
Yeah.
you put in, I think it's a VHS copy of what is it, Battle Wagon of Victory or whatever.
Caravan of Courage.
Caravan of Courage.
Yeah.
And you just hit play and let that thing go.
Yeah.
And I mean, me and Kendra still collected our things to go, but you were ready. So that's the first time I saw it in
Battle
motion.
Wagon of Victory.
And that's the most I've seen until today.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, you know, I have a history of watching weird things after we watch other things. Do you remember the Three Nice Things, Island of Dr. Moreau, when we watched that?
And then you watched Transformers Age of Extinction?
I did. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I was in a pretty good goofy mood after watching that movie. I probably would have stayed for something, but no, not that one.
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I watched that like a mini series because I watched it like 40 minutes at a time. So obviously it took me several sittings.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Band of Brothers had nothing on Age of Extinction for you.
No, it didn't. So that's it though. You saw like the opening crawl of Caravan of Courage, and that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
Well, I'm so sorry to have you here in season 2 of Ewoks. Because
No, it's all right. I mean, I've also listened to this podcast, so I follow
so you're
some
aware.
of the adventures.
You're
Yeah.
aware.
Good.
You're aware.
Good.
You're aware. All right. Well, let's dive in. Let's see what we got going on this week. Today's episode, Eric, believe it or not, written by Paul Dini.
That was the first thing I noticed when
Written by Paul
this
Dini.
starts. Yeah. You know, I can't remember what it was that I read, or maybe it was on a podcast he did, but I remember him like before Batman animated series, like he was kind of ready to be done. Does that sound familiar to you?
No,
like,
I have
he
never
was kind of
read
like
about it.
Maybe I'm like misquoting, but it seemed like he was ready to like get out of like writing animated stuff because he had been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
And I can
feel like
see
he
why
should have.
this.
It was either he was ready or everyone else was ready.
Yeah,
for
the
him to be
industry
done. It
was
was
like,
one of
you
the
have
two.
to stop.
Yeah.
It is weird, though, because he wrote a lot of the first season episodes, and when we were going through the first season, it was like the ones that had a little bit more meat were typically Paul Dini episodes.
Yeah.
Like the one where Widget is holding a snow globe of his wife. Being
No,
like,
that's Heart of Ice. No, that's Batman the Animated Series. You're conflating the two.
Confusion.
Yeah, that's wrong. But this season, it seems like the gloves are off, and Paul Dini's just like, Ewoks want to get married or have popcorn. I don't know, whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So, written by Paul Dini. Fair to say, this is his peak. He never gets any better.
Yeah.
I think than this episode.
Yeah.
Directed again by Dale Schott. This episode originally aired September 20th, 1986, and was released on
Wow,
VHS.
really? I was a month old.
Yeah, you were around.
Wow.
Yep.
Yes, you
Released
you
on-
could have watched it live.
I could have,
you
yeah.
could
My
have.
mom might have turned it on as I was like just a month, and I still didn't
Yeah.
know my shapes and colors. I was
Yeah.
just like looking at motion.
Yep. Well, our college friend Jesse Riles, who was on not Halloween, our Christmas episode. Oh, and Eric, we did a Timothy Zahn episode with Jesse
We did,
back on
yeah.
the All the Book Show.
Yep.
His parents took him with them to see Return of the Jedi in 1983, and he brags about it to this day that
Yeah.
he saw it in theaters.
Well,
So-
yeah, I mean, back then you had to.
I guess. But anyway, this one was released on VHS as part of a compilation, Ewoks 5, Wicket's Adventures. Not a very adventurous episode, but, you know.
I do remember seeing these VHS tapes for sale at like my grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
At the same place you'd find like, speaking of Paul Dini, like you get the 2 episodes or 4 episodes on one VHS of like Batman the Animated Series, and then there was like a rack that just had like this and droids.
Yep.
And I never understood what I was looking at.
Yep. Yep. I'm kind of interested, like if we ever decide to delve into droids, I'm interested to rewatch that because my memories of that are a little bit more clear. And I remember that having some solid moments, but I remember liking this cartoon too. So you know,
right,
now I
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Here's our featured cast member of the week. Sue Murphy takes over the role of Latara, title character this week, from Tabora Johnson. What's so weird about this show is that season 1, it's all voice actors who were either already in the game or would go on to have a long history in animation, like from Ewoks on, including some of the X-Men cast, Eric. George Buza, who's Beast, and what is it, Allison Court, right? Is in
Allison
the
Court.
season.
Yep.
All big names. The second one, you look at their IMDb, and it's like, this guy was a filing clerk on the Paramount lot in 1995.
You know, the mom frog, if they're frogs,
Oh,
the mother
Sluga,
frog
yeah.
reminded me a lot of the external witch thing from the Gambit episode of. Yeah, I heard her
Yeah,
speaking,
yeah.
and all I could hear was the tide.
She did. Sluga did have a very like recognizable cartoony voice, and I couldn't tell. Like, it doesn't say who plays who, so I wasn't sure exactly who it was, but it was familiar.
That is one difficult thing.
Yeah.
When you like go to the IMDb, it is hard to tell
Yeah, other than
who
like
plays
the main
what.
cast. I know.
You know, it just says a voice.
Yeah,
You're like,
So-
there's like 78 voices, but then there's like 12 billed
Yeah.
characters, and that's
Yeah.
it.
and especially, I mean, the Ewoks were almost like minor characters in this episode, so it would have been nice to know who they were. But anyway, Sue Murphy is voicing Latara here in season 2. She doesn't have a ton of acting credits. Like, she did some random things here and there. But when you look at her IMDb, it's mostly that she works adjacent to Chelsea Handler. She was a writer and producer on Chelsea Lately, Chelsea Does It, and Chelsea. So, I don't know. Got her start voicing Latara and went on to be a writer and producer for comedian Chelsea Handler. So, I don't know. Steve, do you want to take us into this episode?
This, the uber detailed plot
Yeah.
for season 2, episode 2B, Princess Latara.
Let's do
We
it.
open to Queen Sluga, desperately looking for a husband for her half-wit son, Vork. None of the candidates are good enough, so she throws them into her pit. Sluga instead decides to get a princess from the Ewoks. Back at the Ewok village, Latara pauses to talk to Princess Nisa in the middle of doing her chores, groaning that Nisa probably never has done chores before. For just one day, Nisa trades positions with Latara so that she finds out just how difficult it is to be princess. She starts out doing a terrible job referring to her friends as peasants. Wicket only obeys her because Nisa bribed him with a pearl of patience. Seems like she should have given it to him, and then he would have had more patience.
I think Eric's fading fast. Just the more
Yeah,
you
no,
tell
it's
the story.
Yeah.
At least let me go
I
through
see
2
his
paragraphs.
soul leaving his body.
Princess Latara demands a tour of her kingdom. Meanwhile, Queen Sluga's minions overhear that Latara is the princess of the Ewoks, and they quickly capture her. Princess Latara is brought to Queen Sluga, and she declares that the wedding take place immediately. Wicket, Nisa, and Tebow find a piece of Latara's royal robes in the woods and investigate where she could have gone. They stumble upon the wedding between Latara and Vork and work quickly to disrupt it. All 4 Ewoks escape when Wicket uses Latara's crown, which she hesitates to give away, to bowl the pursuing Gorfs into a spinning, muddy ball that comes crashing down into their very own banishment pit. Learning her lesson, Latara apologizes to Nisa about not thinking her job as princess was difficult. Even so, she still asks her friend to carry her, considering she still has a few hours left of being the princess. Not too happy, Tebow, Wicket, and Nisa chase her into the forest. Roll credits.
I have so many questions right off the bat, and the first is with Sluga's plan, because she says, you guys will get married, and then we'll combine our kingdoms, and I will rule everything, and I don't understand that.
Yeah, just power hungry, I guess.
Right, but I mean, like, the Prince Vork is going to marry, like, Princess Latara, and that's somehow going to mean that Sluga's in charge of everything? Right away.
Ewoks, are they not the dominant species of the planet? The moon?
I mean, you've asked an interesting question here, Eric.
You're getting way too philosophical.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, they certainly seem the most civilized. Yeah, probably.
They're supposed to be, but it's hard to. I would say they're the dominant.
Okay. That's
all right.
The official
that was
ruling
easy.
Of this Endorian life. They're the dominant species. So we've been talking a lot about, because it's such a crazy transition in all ways from season 1 to season 2, and one big change is the animation quality. I felt like the animation in here was a little better than what we saw in the last episode. But I also felt like with, what are they, the Gorfs? Is that what these aliens are?
Gorfs, yeah.
Gorfs. These frog things?
Yeah, the frog things.
Yeah.
I was getting a real, like, Don Bluth vibe.
Sure. Yeah, like the big crocodile from All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that kind of thing. It felt
like
a lot
grotesque.
More... Yes, right. And, like, cartoony and bright in a way that, like...
Yeah, if these frogs had been in the movie Thumbelina, it would have just made sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they colorized them right. Like the whole thing, like when we went from season 1 to season 2, Eric, you'll see like the color scheme, the palette completely changes.
Not for the
browns, maroons.
Yeah, it's very swampy,
like mustardy colors. Yeah, like even the green is not like a bright green; it's a very dark Kelly green, and the frogs. They looked good because they actually colored them right. You would expect them to be like yellow.
Maybe that's what I was kind of noticing, that it felt a little bit more like bright and vibrant, like animation wise. We got some new words. We got I think it's Latara keeps calling people bark eaters, which
bark eaters.
I don't fully understand that insult, but it really seemed to land.
Yeah.
And they were saying Dengar, like, let's go.
Dengar. They've said that a lot. They've said Dengar a lot. That's their like war chant that they say, like,
so do you think, like,
they attack
before the rebellion got here originally, that like Dengar the bounty hunter showed up?
Maybe
just he was their first contact and he just left. And so now
they're pulling a Dengar. That's what it was, like, attack! Oh, Dengar! I didn't even think of that. That's right. Yeah.
I kind of liked the music this time, Eric. I know that you are an enthusiast of retro video game music, and I felt like there were a lot of sort of like, I don't know, it reminded me of like DuckTales NES kind of music. Did you catch any of that?
Not really. I mean, none of the music was, it wasn't bad, I guess. Like, I feel like I might have been like, whoa, that is some terrible music, but I guess I wasn't listening for it.
I actually noticed that the music was good too.
Wow,
it's funny that you mentioned that, because I thought that through, and so I stayed at the end of the episode to watch who did the music, and I was like, oh yeah, it's the same guy.
Yeah,
but just this episode was just better. Like
the incidental, just like when they're running, when there's a chase or something.
Yeah,
that background stuff, but it did have that sort of like a chip tune kind of vibe to it here and there, which I
no cymbal slapstick.
Yeah, right.
Good.
No, there was less this time. Eric, did you find anything Star Warsy in this episode? Anything reminiscent of the Star Wars franchise within this episode?
Well, there were Ewoks,
sort of. Yeah.
So, and they're from Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Return of the Jedi.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
I feel like, though, hearing like, I'll give you my, what was it? Her stone, her pearl, or
the pearl of patience.
Yeah.
If the pearl of patience, that felt like something that it tracks from the few seconds I saw of the Caravan of Courage that you showed me.
Yeah,
it
just
works.
like this random thing that the Ewoks have. So
yeah. I feel like this, and again, we've only seen like, this is the third short of season 2 that we've seen, but I feel like when they're when we're not like in a dangerous situation, because this was not really like danger, this was like hijinks. It was a hijinks episode. It feels almost Fraggle Rocky at times, and I think like trading that pearl around had that vibe there too.
Yeah.
But
did the rebellion just like fight their battle and then leave?
I guess
completely.
We've tried
to place this show and we can't because it just doesn't.
It feels like
make sense.
You'd still have to like keep at least like a watch depot up there to make sure the Empire doesn't come back and try again.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. I mean, we've talked about this before, but it's really bizarre that they're not like hassling stormtroopers and like, you're not seeing like Imperial bases or even like remnants of Imperial bases or whatever. You're not seeing any of that carryover, and it's just it's really odd. This one, I think if I wasn't watching it like as a Star Wars thing, as like specifically Ewoks, this one felt very much like, this is a cartoon from the 80s. Yeah, like I think it had the right vibe, I guess. Not for a Star Wars thing,
with like, I'm princess for the day, so I'm just gonna act like what I think a princess should be like, even though you hang out with her every day and she never calls you a peasant,
right?
You never carry her, you never do. So I just thought that was really funny. Like, I'm princess now, okay, carry me, and it's just like, what? Like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, I feel like though she doesn't actually learn how hard it is to be a princess because like, she got kidnapped, but like she didn't actually do anything else. Like, does the princess normally get kidnapped?
Right.
So they get put in a castle, right? They get put in another castle.
There wasn't a whole like she didn't have all sorts of like responsibilities that a royal family would have. It wasn't like she spent the day like cutting ribbons and kissing babies and things,
or like hearing the farmer have to complain about the other farmer. Like that would have been better. Like, oh man, this job stinks.
These peasants. But no, just one kidnapping, just one kidnapping. Yeah. I don't know. The last episode of this we watched was called, what was it? The Shrieks? Something about the Shrieks.
Eesh.
And that
the
actually
horrible shrieks.
I
don't know.
But that actually had like funny moments in it. I didn't feel like anything in this was really funny.
No, nothing was really funny.
So. No, I mean, I guess it was funny about like how like Twitter pated the sun frog was.
Oh yeah,
because every time.
I like this one.
Oh,
I like her.
He wanted to turn into like a Tex Avery wolf all
That's
of a sudden.
True. Yeah.
No, right.
Hitting his
like
head
a bug.
with a frying pan.
Were you thinking too, like, what kingdom could that thing possibly come from?
Yeah.
Like, it's probably a beehive, like some
sickly
woods over.
Yeah, and like, were they like visiting the planet? Because the other, like, you were bringing in a bunch of potential suitors coming in, and they were all like different aliens. Are these all like creatures from Endor, or are they coming from different planets?
One of them, wasn't the first one looked a lot like the little thing that sits on Jabba the Hutt?
It did. Yeah.
Whatever those things are called.
Maybe it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's the most Star Warsy
there you go.
thing.
That could be Star Warsy.
That could be Star
Warsy.
Yeah.
I feel like this one, again, if you're just looking at it the lens from like an 80s cartoon and you were going to like put this on for a kid, I mean, it all tracks, it makes sense. Like, you can follow what's going on. There's things to look at. It's, it's goofy. So like, it's fine in that way, but like we're just getting farther and farther from anything that really feels like adventure-y, you know? So strange. Let's see if we can find
the show has nothing on Pawpaws.
No. Oh my gosh. Wow. I haven't thought of that show since it aired.
Well, I don't think that one stands the test of time PC wise.
Oh, that makes sense.
I'm sure there's some very culturally insensitive things in Pawpaws.
Pawpaws.
But
wow.
there's still a show about bears.
Yeah, you're right.
So.
You're right. Wow.
All right. Sorry, I just sent Nick back.
You did. You really did. It was like you unlocked this little cavern in my mind.
He's falling down. The Pawpaws are there. The Snorks are there. The shirt tails are flying around.
One time, Steve, Eric, and I were in a car together. We were trying to figure out an old Disney cartoon, and we finally figured out that it was Fluffy Dogs, and it almost cost us our lives because Eric was driving.
I was trying to describe it to Nick. I was like, it's about dogs. I think they're from another world. Yep. I remember at one point they're like, don't talk, because if the bad guy found out they could talk, he's like, I knew it. And he was able to Google all that stuff to find, and he put it on his phone to show me while I was driving, and I was just so entranced that he had found it. I almost drove into an 18-wheeler.
It's really true. Yeah, cause of death, Fluffy Dogs.
Worth it.
Yeah.
Man, let's do a Fluffy Dogs podcast.
Pass.
Why not? Oh no, you're not. You don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
guys. What's our Ichiwawa moment? Eric, you're our guest.
Ichiwawa is good.
It's
the
good.
good
Yeah.
one.
I mean, it used to be we try to find the most clever or
Yeah.
ingenious. We're not quite really having that option anymore. But yeah, a part
All
that
right.
we're like, okay, yeah, I like that.
I guess I'm gonna give it to how pathetically unrequited whatever that blonde Ewoks love is for Latara.
Oh, Tebow. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Tebow, yeah,
Yeah, he's all in.
And it was funny because he had a line where he's like, I still like you no matter how nasty you are. That I definitely construed as a, as a crude adult there, like a Janet Jackson kind of thing. Like I like you no matter how nasty you are.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
They
I don't
do
know.
have a relationship later on.
They do.
Do they?
In that comic book, remember the first
That's
page that
right.
threw us for a
They
loop?
were like
Oh, okay.
together.
Okay.
he was just he just kept being, yeah.
He
Tebow's
was so sad.
pathetic.
He was so sad too when she was like rejecting him and stuff. Poor Tebow.
So I guess like throw in that along with the frog being like, I like her. There's just a lot of hormones going around on Endor in this episode.
Okay.
Spring has sprung.
Yeah. Apparently. Wow. All right, Steve. What about you?
Mine was Vork. That was as
you
far
liked
as anything entertaining in the episode, it was him. Mom, I like
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
It's just like how like it can fit in your two hands. That's how big that queen is.
We had
like,
kind of a like Once Upon a Mattress Princess and the Pea thing happening here, and then
yeah.
then with Latara and Nisa, it became kind of a Prince and the Pauper situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
For me, Wicket had a line that I thought that actually did kind of make me chuckle. It was when he's like, when they're going to try to rescue Latara and they're like formulating a plan, and he lays this whole thing out and then they get interrupted, and he was like, I guess we can improvise.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought
wasn't
that was
bad.
funny, because
Yeah.
like he laid out this plan and then they got caught and he was just kind of like, oh, screw it. And I thought that was funny.
Hearing his voice, are they trying to go for like he's like a Bugs Bunny wisecracker kind of thing?
I don't know.
I don't know either, man.
Because they're modulating everybody's voices too, which just makes it weird.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know what Denny Delk's plan was here for Wicket.
I feel like this show is missing. Maybe that does have one, and it's just not in this episode. I feel like this show is missing like a Gargamel figure, who's always trying to capture.
We've
kill
talked
the
about
Ewoks.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. well, they had it with the Dulocs, right? There was a reoccurring character, and they lost it now.
I would say Morag. First season had
Morag.
Had like a Endor witch named Morag, and she was the one that was like in all the Paul Dini episodes. But they kind of just like killed her off in season 1, and they were like, we don't want to do that. So like, we lost this concept of a big bad, or like this is our overarching villain, and now we just kind of have Dulocs sometimes. They weren't even in this episode, or just one.
She made the magic aspect of it work, right? You know, like you think about the Jedis, and we don't tend to think of them as like magical, mystical wizards. I mean, we're told like, oh yeah, you're a space wizard with a laser sword, kind of thing, and but there's really no counterpart as far as like a witch until we get the Witches of Dathomir in the Clone Wars, or in the books. But Morag was the witch part where like everything that happened that was magical, you were like, oh yeah, it makes sense.
And
there's a witch, right? And
she
there's
was
a witch.
definitely set up to be that
Logray
character.
We haven't seen Logray. Have we seen Logray at all this season?
No, I don't think so.
So it's just like, oh, I have this magic pearl, and it's just like we've lost it. It's hard to believe now because there actually isn't magic. It's just all made up to be convenient for the episode now.
Yeah, and it's not working for it. Let's get to it. Let's just get to the Oak of Arc moment.
All right, so Eric, what's your?
So that's the bad stuff. I'm gonna give it to the fact that Paul Dini wrote this thing.
Yeah,
because
it's hard. It's hard to know.
I thought I would.
Great,
be
he's
like,
never gonna be a guest now.
I thought this is gonna be a bad episode because it's Ewoks or whatever. But like when I saw Paul Dini's name pop up there, I'm like, oh well, Paul Dini. I'm sure there's something here I'll be able to note. But like, you cannot tell that this is like the Paul Dini that becomes Paul Dini. You know, it's just like there's nothing there. So I can't imagine it's totally his fault. But it's just that really left me disappointed that by the end I'm like, there was nothing here.
Yeah.
Latara, I don't understand how she's supposed to be a prototype for Harley Quinn because I didn't pick up on that at all.
No, you really don't see
I
that.
guess if you give her like pigtails, she looks more like modern day Harley Quinn.
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess. Yeah.
What about you, Steve? What's yours?
Mine was the pit.
Just the concept of their pit.
Concept of the pit.
Okay.
Yeah, I just thought it was weak writing. Instead of just like saying like, oh, they're not good enough. Like they had to go in the pit, and I get that it all came around full circle. But still, I just thought like, really a pit?
Oh, what is the pit? Because like at the end, they're still able to talk from the bottom of the
Right.
pit.
So they're just gonna like starve to death in the bottom of this pit. Like what's the?
Yeah, right.
Because I mean
So,
that's dark.
What's the? Is there, and I guess there's just holes.
I guess
in
Endor,
like in what in
What is their kingdom? Because all
the-
you ever see is them in this like tunnel. Like that's it. They're just like
Well, that's why
Kepler-
she needs to marry. Yeah.
Kepler
Right.
B,
Yes.
right? Isn't
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Raising Wolves? Just
I
pits.
don't. Oh
Yeah.
wow.
So I guess there's
You know-
pits.
Like frogs can live 10 to 12 years, so they could be down there for a while.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, maybe they're
Yeah.
just gonna settle in for the long haul.
It's like a
I don't
crater pit too.
I don't really feel like I can choose one. I feel like internally everything matched with itself. You know what I mean? Like this the plot, like I said, the plot made sense. It was all like there, but it's just like I guess the whole plot is my Oak of Arc moment because it's just kind of like
that makes sense.
why? Like why are we
I
doing
was gonna
this?
do that,
Why
but I
is
thought
this
it was a
fun?
cop-out.
Well, it
The
is,
whole
but
episode.
I know, but like it's just doing this kind of story. I feel like just doesn't make any
It
sense.
just did,
It's
it did
not-
crap right.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Like
Yeah.
it was a terrible episode, but I didn't hate it as much as I hated other
you
episodes.
can't really like pull out. Well, this was the one flaw. It was just like if you're
Yeah.
gonna do this kind of story, then I guess they did it fine. But please don't do this kind of story.
It's just not Ewoks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to rate because it's just like this one didn't feel like Ewoks at all. So it's like, I mean, I can't give it a 1
No.
because it wasn't that bad. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy. What would you?
All
What do you
right.
think you would rate it, Nick?
I guess I'd say a 3. I mean, for that same reason,
Yeah.
it's just fine for what it is. You know.
That's mine too. What about you, Eric? And on a scale of
Out
1 to
of-
5.
Oh, woof.
On a scale of 1 to
I guess I'll give it.
1 to 15, 3. No, 1 to 5.
I mean, I don't have a lot of respect for 80s cartoons in general.
Oh,
I guess so.
you're in the
Maybe
wrong
I'm gonna
place.
give it
Yeah.
3. But this kind of just kind of like it's just so like people remember this stuff, but then you watch it, it all seems kind of like shallow.
Yeah.
And it takes a while for cartoons to be like, oh, we don't have to be so shallow.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one definitely felt like on par with what I tend to think of like negatively with
Yeah.
like, yep, it's definitely something that could be on the TV.
I agree. Yeah.
So,
Yes.
Well, Eric, thank you for joining us and finally completing
Yeah.
your Radio Meanwhile hat trick. It's more than
Yeah.
that. But next time, we're going to be covering the full-length episode, The Rach, and it's written by Michael Reeves, who's written a lot of good Star Wars. So we'll see.
Hey, all
we'll
right.
see how that goes. Steve, always good to see you. Eric, thanks for joining
Absolutely.
us.
yeah.
Do it.
Nub
see
nub.
you next time.
Yep. No. Yeah. Thank you, Eric. This Endorian Life was brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 90s Music Got Me Like, previously on X-Men, and 9021 Here We Go. Did I do that right?
You did it. Share your thoughts on this and upcoming episodes by following us on Facebook or Twitter at Endorian Life. And please rate, subscribe, and share this show wherever you get your podcasts.